This is Phantology.
You may have heard of us.
All right, what's up, colonists? This is Stephen, your host with Phantology Podcast. I have my lifelong friend Jake with me, and we are once again talking about Murderbot. So we've done two Murderbot episodes, and we are back for a third and final for now. Not sure if there's going to be more books or not, but in this review, we're covering books 6 and 7, Fugitive Telemetry and System Collapse. Jake, give us like a little overview of your
Yeah.
opinion of the books.
Um, I was a little disappointed starting six just because it is a flashback and like I was excited to see what happens right after book five, you know. I feel like book
Mm.
five really like introduced a lot of like potential change and growth for the series and characters in general. And so I was excited to see where that went. A lot of things were shaken up. But I ended up really liking book six, or yeah. Um, I don't know if it's one of the stronger ones. I think it's a little weaker than some of the previous ones. Definitely weaker than five. I feel like five was really good.
Five,
Um,
yeah, I agree. Five is my favorite Murderbot.
yeah, five. Say yeah, five's my favorite. I don't think seven is as good as five either.
Network
I
Effect, I believe is the name of
yeah,
five. The names are all kind of like
I don't
somewhat
understand.
not
Yeah,
nondescript, so it's a little hard to
yeah.
remember. Yeah,
Um, yeah. I guess Fugitive Telemetry, book six. I get the fugitive part. And then system collapse for book seven makes sense too, I guess. With
yeah.
but yeah, so I would say I ended up liking six more than I thought I would after being disappointed it was a flashback. I thought the story is pretty fun. I like the murder mystery aspect of it, and um, I thought it was a good example of how the author Martha Wells will build out the world bits at a time by introducing new characters through the different short stories. Book seven, I thought I would like more, going because it picks up directly after book five.
Forward
And I was
right,
excited
right.
for a longer story again. So I was excited to see where it would go. But I kind of felt like book seven had the content of one of the shorter stories spread out over twice the length. I
Mm.
was just disappointed. I didn't feel like enough happened. I don't think it warranted uh the full, what is it, like 6 hours was the audiobook versus like three. So
Yeah, Fugitive Telemetry was like 160 pages ish, and System Collapse was like 250.
yeah.
So I don't know how exactly you classify a novel and a novella and all those things, but
Yeah,
definitely shorter works, both of them.
definitely. But I can't remember how long book five was, but book seven I felt like felt similar in length, but not as deep of
Yeah, yeah.
content. I appreciated some of the character development we got with Murderbot in book seven, System Collapse, but I think I was overall disappointed in the like plot growth. I didn't feel like much happened, but
I think I mostly agree with you. I liked seven more than six, although my reading experience was a little different than you because I read the first four and then
mhm.
six and then five. So I read
So
them
you
in
read it
chronological
chronological,
order.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. We did it with I read with the book club a couple months ago for the first time, and our book club fans on our Fantology Discord recommended chronological, and I see the reason for that recommendation because, like you said, I feel like it's kind of disappointing going from the excitement of five back in time to like this small scale mystery thing, and kind of seems
And
like we've
yet,
reset a bit.
and yet I liked six more than you, which is interesting.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess part of it was I really liked the continuation of the story from five, but
Yeah.
I do agree with you that I feel like we need more meat to the story, and it's not focusing on the things that we've talked about as being interesting, which are one, the alien remnant stuff going on
Hmm.
that like we both talked in five, a review of book five, how interesting that was. And two, I mean, I guess it kind of got into more of the philosophical Murderbot human relationship thing in seven a bit, but it kind of took a step back because I feel like we were making a lot of strides in the previous books, and seven just kind of like dealt with the fallout of this trauma, and there were certainly some like things to talk about from that aspect, but like you say, it was 250 pages and well, it wasn't a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah, when it comes to like the personhood of Murderbot, that was explored pretty well in System Collapse. I like the fact that they're basically having like nightmares, right? And like these flashbacks and um shutting them down. Like it was a very human reaction to the trauma they've experienced. And so it was really cool to see that side take the forefront and um, in the context of our exploration of the personhood of Murderbot.
Mhm.
But outside of that, I don't think anything else really like the plot didn't really add to that conversation and it like that was like the only part of that really satisfied that itch for me. Whereas I think
Yeah.
book six, Fugitive Telemetry, did more for like that exploration in general, not so much for Murderbot, but you get to see a lot more bots in Fugitive Telemetry. Like there's the bots and I can't remember the name of the main one. It's like the port master or something like that. But you get to see them like interact with personality. Like one of them had a name. I wish I could remember the name. It was like this, like such a dumb name. And Murderbot was like, why? He was at first, Murderbot was like, this is what happens when you're on preservation and these bots are like raised in this weird environment. They pick these like silly names to represent themselves and kind of thinking the humans probably like gave that robot that name and now they're stuck with it. But then you find out the bots are using that name as like an inside joke. Like it's a joke to them that the humans will call it that. I wish I could remember the name. Do you remember the
Mhm.
part I'm talking about?
I
Um,
don't. I'm a little
basically
fuzzy on. Yeah.
yeah, basically he meets this bot and he's like just commenting on how dumb the name is. And then you find out that the bot told the humans that name so that way the humans would sound dumb basically whenever they addressed the bot. And it
Mm.
had like a serial code for an actual name. And so I feel like you got a lot more of this like personality and humanity to the bots in Fugitive Telemetry than you have elsewhere. And I like that the main villain of Fugitive Telemetry, we're diving into spoilers, I assume.
Yeah, yeah. We're talking about the
What
books. Yeah.
was the doc bot or whatever the actual name of it was. Like I thought that was interesting as well because we've had antagonists be bots before, like murder bots and so like other sec units and things like that. Like what do they call like the sec units that are like military grade? Are they just called murder bots too? I don't remember. There's like a name for
No.
all of them.
Yeah.
Like
They are
uh
attack
killbots.
bots,
Attack.
kill bots,
Yeah. But
something
anyways,
something real serious. Yeah.
we've had bots like that in the past, but they've never been the antagonist. Whereas or the like main villain. They've just been antagonistic forces. Whereas in this one, like the main villain was, I mean, it was the corporation, but it was also like the representation of the corporation there was that bot. And so I thought that was really interesting.
Mm.
But
Yeah. I think there's a few things in what you said to unpack. So starting with book seven, I agree that there was certainly some interesting stuff in the nightmare flashbacks that Murderbot was experiencing. But like you said, it just wasn't tied in completely. Like it felt like there was no bow put over it to make it a real satisfying type of thing. Like it didn't come in into the plot at all to help Murderbot realize something important about itself. It was just kind of like there were some conversations, and I think as the reader, you can pretty clearly see what's going on. But I feel like
mhm.
Murderbot having a stronger realization of that would have made for a stronger ending to the book. And I feel like both books didn't really have super exciting, like, neither one of them really had an awesome, like everything comes together and we get a nice, satisfying ending. Because even in six, like, yeah, the villain's unmasked, but once that happens, it's just like,
It's the end.
yep, indeed, I am the villain, and we will fight for a minute and then the end.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think for me, a big part of book seven not being ranked as high is it might just purely be an expectations thing. The fact that it was significantly longer and the fact that it was that direct continuation to book five, which to me felt like a very strong pivot point in the series.
Hmm.
Maybe that's not the right word for it, but it's like the next phase is happening after that. And I don't think it lived up to those expectations. I think, like I said, that like the content level just wasn't really there. Like the story plot wise, I enjoy the shorter stories, kind of what you mentioned earlier, and the fact that like the world building is done in these subtle ways in these short stories of like just showing some character here within other characters, or the environment. You're slowly getting to know and exploring this like over the top capitalistic kind of dystopia. And I think that works really well in the shorter format and like the novellas. But when you start to get a longer format, like and where we are at in the story already, it's like I'm ready to like dive into the meat of a story. Whereas instead we just got a longer exploration of those things. Like
Hmm.
I feel like it felt like finally too serialized, which I haven't felt so far in the series up until this point. Where at this point it was like, okay, it kind of feels like the like conflict of the week rather than like I want to dive in and explore this world more. I did appreciate, like we said, the Murderbot character growth and everything, but there's just so many like things that I just want to dive into plot wise that I feel like we're lacking in this one.
So you felt like after five, the series kind of had a decision to make. Is it going to continue to be serial episodes, or is it going to be this like more epic thing? Because bigger ideas were
Yeah,
introduced in five, really kind of it put the whole Grey Chris thing in the rearview mirror, jumped into more of this alien remnant thing, and then we still have the threat of corporations just now in this bearish Astranza, I think I said that right,
yeah,
corporation
yeah,
rather than Grey Chris. So we still have a lot of the same ideas, but now it kind of seems like, okay, we could start to like really develop a big plot here, but they didn't. It seems like no attempt was made for that, but we
yeah.
still had a lot of material covered. And so it leaves us kind of confused, like, where is the series going?
Yeah, and it's not so much that after book five, the author had a choice, but it felt like the author made some promises that things were going to
Mm,
like get more detailed that way. And also, I'm fine with the serialized format, but because this didn't really tread any new ground outside of Murderbot's character growth, it felt like the negative side of serialization, where um
just felt repetitive, a story you've
yeah,
heard
yeah, it didn't
before
like tread new
almost.
ground. Yeah, the plot didn't really tread new ground. I did think it was interesting to see like kind of the politicking maneuvering between like trying to convince the colonists to go with them
Uh,
rather than with the corporation, which like you're saying ahead of time, I had to make this connection. Before we started recording, you mentioned that kind of ties into the whole like fugitives in book six.
yeah,
And
six kind of set up that
yeah,
whole idea. Yeah.
which I wonder if that's why she went back and wrote that story. I don't know.
Mm,
But like there's some interesting parts, but it just didn't again, I think if this were the same length as book six, I think I would have been uh less disappointed with it.
mm.
It just felt a little dragged out for what it contained.
Yeah, because if we think about like what actually happened in seven, so they get introduced to the story, what's going on currently. Now we've got to go find this separatist group that we haven't heard of for years. We go investigate, we go through the tunnels for a while, we find them, we find, lo and behold, the corporation is there, also trying to take them over. I thought the best part was when they made the media like Murderbot
Yeah.
realized, hey, I can use my media experience to win
Yeah.
them over because reason and logic isn't really going to do it here. So I got to use my more like human emotions. I thought that part was great.
Yeah, that was really fun. And that was some newness to it. That added a new dimension to it.
Yeah.
Um, but I think maybe another way to articulate this is books up to book five, like the stories up to book five, were us getting to know Murderbot while Murderbot got to know itself, while we're still getting to know the world.
Okay.
And by book five, we like Murderbot had kind of, especially at the end of book five, Murderbot had kind of taken control of its destiny. It decided to stay with Art over returning with Mensa, and so I expected more of a owning your own destiny type plot and moving forward. And I get that with like the system collapse, with the trauma it has, that's like I get that it's not possible for it to just then like do everything, but I think it would have been more interesting, like maybe juxtaposing its decision to kind of own its own destiny and wanting to do more stuff while not being like failing to do so because of this trauma it's faced, rather than just facing this trauma while doing something else that wasn't really like integral
Hmm.
to its destiny in that way.
It had, yeah, Murderbot seemed to have big time decision paralysis kind of throughout the entire book, where it's almost like an observer of what was happening. It would jump in here or there with like, okay, I guess I gotta go on this exploratory mission, and then it ends up, negotiating with the Leonid person that we had met in book five. So like certainly Murderbot is still an active participant and an active character, but almost like all of a sudden it's a reluctant one, just and it's due to this like shock of the trauma. But maybe it would have been more interesting if it was trying really hard to be more active, but struggling against the trauma rather than just kind of here we go, ho ho, like.
Yeah, and also like it felt like Murderbot had finally like decided, like finally figured out, and they kind of touch on this when there's a part where Murderbot is talking about three and how like three needs help, and Murderbot's like, well, I don't know how to help myself, so I can't think about helping three determine what it wants. And thinking back
Mhm.
to how hard it was for Murderbot to understand how to figure out what it wants. But I felt like a lot of figuring out what it wants was resolved in book five. That's how it felt the ending of book five was to me. That kind of self actualization of understanding what it wants or what they want. But all of the actions it's taking in this book didn't feel like something Murderbot was like, okay, this is what I want to do, so I'm doing this. It still felt like this is a situation I'm in. I'll help these people, but it didn't feel the same. Like it just
Mm.
didn't feel like they were like actively deciding to do something they wanted to do rather than reacting to a situation. And I think, yeah, but
Yeah.
I just think it would have been stronger if you had that more active decision role. But I
Without
mean,
getting
though,
into without getting into spoilers for these two other series, do you, as you're kind of talking through the trauma and of what Murderbot's experiencing and where the character's at, do you see any similarities to characters like a Paladin or Randall Thor, who are also dealing with the weight of depression, trauma, emotional baggage throughout their long series, Stormlight Archive and Wheel of Time, that they're in? And I think at times those characters can be frustrating because you want them to be more active, but there's reasons why they're struggling. And maybe we have some of the same here.
um, yeah, yeah, I think those are decent comparisons. I don't think Murderbot's on the same scale of uh
It's hard.
severity,
Yeah, it's hard to make like a
but
direct comparison for Murderbot.
I do think, and again, not getting into spoilers with those series and characters, but I do think their trauma and their like mental health issues are directly like foiling their character growth, and that is tied to their plots as well. Like
Hmm.
there are key moments with both of those characters, and I don't want to like obviously go into them because they're such great moments, but key moments to where you're like you're not reaching your full potential, and and how you could be affecting the world around you and the story because of these mental health issues you're having. And that's what makes it like that frustrating but good writing, like that tension there.
Hmm.
Whereas Murderbot, you have like the frustration of not being able to do and complete their tasks, but I think the connection between their development and the plot's development just isn't there. Just because the plot itself,
Yeah,
like I didn't care for what's happening
yeah,
in the
yeah.
plot, but
Part of it could be, not nearly as many pages as in
yeah,
those two series we mentioned, but yeah, yeah. Maybe if there was just a little more meat to what was going on, we could kind of tie it all together and have more of an interesting story arc. Yeah.
yeah. But I mean, I feel like I don't want to be negative the whole time on it. I did really like you said, the documentary part. That was fun, and the action is always written really well in these
Yeah.
series, in these books. I
Well, and
mean,
that documentary part, I think, is a great example of the type of stuff that works super well when it's a tie-in of here's all this stuff about Murderbot, this unique,
yeah,
funny thing about it that has always been the case. It's realizing why this is important for it, why, and also how it connects to like the humanity
yeah,
aspect, that theme, and it's going to take that and apply it into a solution for the current plot. Like that's the type of like fully encompassed plot writing that really works. That's awesome.
yeah. And I guess to take off a little bit of that critique I gave, that was a good, that was a classic, like you're saying, murder bot um, plot point, and that towards the like climax of the story, like something happens, like the documentary, or when that kind of pet robot died, where Murderbot is getting to know themselves more by solving the like uh conflict of the weeks issue.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I think the documentary part really, yeah, really did a good job with that. Again, maybe it was just too long for me, too drawn out, but as well, I really liked I'm excited to see more of three. I'm glad we got to see more of three in this one, and three kind of played an important role, you know. Um, and then the I love seeing more governor modules being disabled. That's always
Yeah.
fun. I do kind of think that we have to think about like if it's this easy to disable them, like we're gonna reach like a critical mass before something needs to happen. Like how
Uh-huh.
many disabled governor modules can there be? And that's again like I want to like see that fallout. I want to see that play out more rather than just uh disabling another one. But
I think other highlights of seven especially was Art's interaction with Murderbot. That
yeah,
I enjoy that. I think there's a lot of cleverly written funny aspects that continue to shine. It the whole shtick of these human robots that aren't the dynamic and the humor there. It still works. It's still funny. I think there's still ways to explore this. Maybe it just needs a little more of a new framework to work around. But the formula itself is still, I think, still works. There's still potential for this series, but I don't know where it's going because
yeah,
I think like for me personally, I mean, this is my preference, obviously, just one reader, but I just think it's more interesting to go into untread ground here. Let's cover more of the alien stuff. Let's continue following like one issue with the corporations and get into more of like it's not, I mean, not every series needs like a big bad, but that does help give you more direction rather than, I mean, I guess like the adventure of the week works for a while, but I think it's tough
yeah,
to make that work for too long before you start getting a little stale.
yeah. I think you said is right. I'd agree. Let's keep this like all of that exploration of humanity and personhood and like character growth that Murderbots had, but let's just continually put it in new. Um, with new content or with stuff that isn't as repetitive, but like dives deeper. I do thinking of like a big bad. I do wonder if the big bad in the series itself is just the idea of like um unrestricted like dystopian capitalism. Like that's the main like antagonist throughout this.
Mhm.
So maybe we don't need a single corporate entity, but like let's explore that in new ways. And like the alien stuff, like I just gotta know more about that. And I think that's the reason I like
Yeah.
nothing was
Yeah.
really learned, but
Yeah.
um yeah.
You know, a series that does a pretty good job of taking the serial adventures and then continuing to tread new ground and then ultimately upping the scale and getting into new stuff. You know what I'm gonna
Mhm. Yeah, I
throw
know.
out to you
It's too
now?
bad they're not too bad they're not more engaging and better written in the beginning.
Gotta try Dresden Files, man. Give it another shot.
What does try mean? I've read two books.
I mean, I'm sad that the two books were so bad for you that you didn't see that there could be future potential for something better.
They I don't think they're like bad, but they feel kind of like pulpy in a way that it's like, oh yeah, that was entertaining, but has left no like lasting impact. It was like I was like decently entertained while reading it, but there was nothing about it that made me feel I need to continue.
You think it's the same reason that you're a 6.5 out of 10 on How I Met Your Mother, and I'm more like a 8 out of 10 right now?
Six. How I
I don't
Met
know,
Your
8 out of
Mother's
10. Maybe I haven't finished the series yet, so I can't give it a rating, but
ending aside, because I think it's universally held to be a very poor ending. How I Met Your Mother is a max 6.5 out of 10 for me because I mean we kind of got over this, but uh, I think the writing is cheesy. Like it's written to be like just that like we're gonna put a laugh track behind it and then people are gonna laugh at it, regardless of how funny it is.
so is it same kind of thing as Dresden? Like you don't see a whole lot of value there. It's pulpy and cheesy.
A little bit. I think How I Met Your Mother
I'm just
is
trying to
worse.
understand your brain preferences a little bit
Yeah, I
more.
mean, this is like a weird comparison, but and then How I Met Your Mother, I think the characters suck. Like, yeah, I Marshall's the only
Hmm.
one that I think is a decent person. Well, a decent character. Robin's like a decent person, but I think she's pretty boring, honestly.
They're
Like
all
they
kind of
don't
strange.
do
They're
anything.
kind of strange people.
I think Barney is written too over the top where it's like it's just not funny to me. It's just like I don't know, too much.
You just
And
want
Lily is
you just want to slap him.
no, not just slap. I'm just like I don't know. It just doesn't connect with me. And Lily is just a horrible like person as a character. Like none of them should be friends with Lily. Marshall shouldn't be with Lily. And then Ted is too mopey. Everything is like he's so melodramatic. He's like worse than JD from Scrubs, which I love Scrubs, but I recognize the issues there. But
Uh,
um
all right. Well, my attempt to make a comparison was
let me
probably a
make a
6.5 out of 10. Maybe you have a better comparison.
let me make a comparison tying back to why I think I was disappointed with book seven.
Okay.
Um
This will be better. Get us back on track.
um and hot take, I know this is terrible now with uh hindsight. And like now, book four of Harry Potter is one I really enjoy. But when I first started reading Harry Potter, I feel like there was a solid, it felt like a long time where like book four was the latest book that was out. And so there's a long time where I felt like I didn't have anything past that. So I wasn't able to see where J.K. Rowling was going with it.
It's probably
And
just
from
because we were like of the age where
it
we
was
were old
already,
enough to be
yeah,
waiting for the next book rather than just like, oh, let's
yeah,
read the book because we're like 10 years old or whatever. Yeah.
yeah. We were old enough to be waiting, but not old enough to
Be like,
know that it's going to be coming soon,
yeah, yeah, it could show
Yeah.
up any day.
Yeah. Like it was like it's not here. It hasn't been here for at least a month. who knows when it's going to be here? Like
Right.
that's the kind, yeah.
Before
Um,
we were addicted to the internet. Yeah.
but I was disappointed in book four when I first read it because books one and two of Harry Potter are basically here is Voldemort again. Like Harry defeated Voldemort when he was a baby, and he had to confront him again at book one. That was good. Book two, it's like, oh, now you have to confront this other aspect of Voldemort, but still defeating Voldemort. Spoilers for Harry Potter. Book three, I loved. It was my favorite one at the time, when only books one through four were out, because it started to do a lot of setup. Like there's a lot of
Yeah.
like they're setting up Peter Pettigrew, Sirius Black, and you hear that prophecy of the Dark Lord coming back. Like
Hmm.
it's all this. I think that's in book three. Maybe that was book four. I don't remember. But like it's very different.
No, it's
It
book
broke the
three because
mold.
it's Trelawney, right?
Trelawney, yeah. It broke the mold from like what seemed to be the formula of Harry Potter. And it was definitely like a setup book in terms of like where the plot's going further. And then book four comes out, and once again, it felt like it was going back to the same formula of Harry confronts Voldemort, he wins, and he gets away. Hindsight, obviously, book four was a huge setup book, but at the time it didn't feel that way because I didn't have anything past that to see. And it just felt like we're going once again, somehow Harry Potter saves the day. And like that's how I took it. And that's kind of how I
Mm.
think book seven was disappointing to me, where it's like book five felt like this big setup, like book three was for me. Like we're going to explore this wider universe that's like, and we're really going to like dive in and get more meat out of this. And then book seven comes out and it's a longer book again. And I'm excited to like get into that. And I felt like it was treading the same ground again without exploring. But I was wrong about Harry Potter book four, and I could be wrong about this. So,
I like that comparison better than How I Met Your Mother.
well, the How I Met Your Mother was a Dresden comparison, which was a comparison to this. So,
Yeah, right. There's too
that's,
many, too many comparison, too many
yeah,
comparisons away.
yeah.
I feel like that's a good note to end on. So, book seven, Murderbot, and the system collapse akin to Harry Potter. Um, yeah, yeah, I like it.
I'm still excited to see what else is in store, but I am hoping for more depth in terms of plot going forward. I think the character work has always been pretty good.
Yeah. And honestly, maybe if you're a big fan of Murderbot, let us know because I don't know if she's what the future plans for the series are.
Yeah.
She wrote The Witch King, or
I really
which
want to read
is it
that.
Rich King or Rich Witch Queen?
Witch King, yeah.
Witch King. Yeah, and I think she has another book as well. I could be wrong. Anyway,
She
Martha
has
Wells
other
has been kind of
series.
she's been pumping out
Yeah.
stuff, but I have no idea what her Murderbot plans are. And I know the TV series has got some steam going, so that'll probably, take up some of her time as well. So yeah. But
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of fans of the series out there. So if you
Yeah.
check out the video, let us know in the comments or hop on our Discord. Invites are in the link below and
Yeah.
let us know what we should know more about the series.
Cool.
Cool. Thanks, Jake.
Thanks, everyone. See
Peace.
you.